Chosen one, this is not a random moment, and you are not here by accident. Heaven aligned this encounter with precision, and your spirit was drawn here because something has already shifted in the unseen realm. While you were resting, while you were waiting, while you were questioning, God was moving pieces into place on your behalf. As it is written in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11, He makes everything beautiful in its time, and that appointed time is now. Chosen one, you are standing at the edge of a supernatural turning point. What is coming will not arrive through human logic or familiar patterns. This is divine acceleration. This is elevation that surprises even those who thought they knew your story. God has been working in secret, shaping you in hidden seasons, preparing you for a release that will feel sudden yet perfectly timed. Like Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 declares, the vision was delayed, but it will not fail. When it arrives, it will come swiftly. Anointed one. This message is an invocation, a summons to awaken your faith and align your heart. You are about to witness a transfer that carries favor, clarity, and authority. What follows will stir your spirit, confirm what you've been sensing, and prepare you for what heaven is about to reveal. Stay present. Stay open. This moment was reserved for you. Chosen one. Let me speak plainly and carefully to your spirit. What you have been experiencing was not random resistance, and it was never a sign that you were behind. There was pressure on your life because there is weight on your calling. There was confusion because clarity was being guarded. There was delay because timing mattered more than speed. I know how it felt. I remember seasons when nothing outwardly moved, yet everything inwardly was being tested. You look fine on the surface, but inside you're asking God why the effort feels invisible. Heaven has been answering that question long before you asked it out loud. Chosen one. The opposition you faced was strategic. It wasn't trying to destroy you outright. It was trying to keep you hidden just long enough to make you doubt what God planted in you. The enemy understood something many people around you did not. Once your rise begins, it does not stop with you. It ripples through bloodlines. It disrupts familiar patterns. It exposes lies that have quietly lived in families for decades. That is why the resistance was personal, subtle, and persistent. The goal was not just to slow you down, but to make your own people misunderstand you. There were moments when your family saw the struggle, but not the strategy. They noticed the waiting, but not the preparation. They commented on the delay but never saw the alignment forming behind the scenes. And that hurt because you wanted to be understood by the people who knew you first. I've stood there too, sitting at tables where others celebrated visible success while my obedience felt quiet and unrewarded. Watching conversations move past me as if my season was irrelevant. Those moments can shake your confidence if you let them, but they can also consecrate you. Chosen one. The hidden season was not a holding pattern, it was a refining room. Scripture reminds us that before the Lord does wondrous things, He calls His people to consecrate themselves. That means separation with purpose, not isolation with shame. Every private prayer you whispered, every choice you made when no one clapped, every time you stayed obedient while feeling overlooked, it all mattered. None of it was wasted. Heaven records what people dismiss. Let me ground this for you with something real. Think about a craftsman who works on something rare. The most valuable pieces are never assembled in front of a crowd. They're shaped in quiet rooms, measured slowly, corrected patiently. Meanwhile, people outside celebrate fast results and flashy wins. But those quick displays don't last. You were never meant to be a quick display. You were being built to endure. That's why your process looked different. That's why comparison felt obvious, but never fit. Chosen one. Here's what shifted. The season of concealment has completed its assignment. You weren't hidden because you were unready. You were hidden because what God was forming needed protection until it could stand. Now the pressure you feel is not resistance anymore. It's transition. It's the feeling of something being moved into position. The reason this rise will shock your family is because it will not resemble your past or match their predictions. It will bypass familiar explanations. And hear this carefully. This elevation is not about proving anyone wrong. It's about making God unmistakable. If the breakthrough had arrived earlier, it could have been credited to timing, connections, or luck. But God waited until the gap between expectation and outcome was undeniable. When it manifests, even skeptics will pause, not because you argued your case, but because the fruit speaks louder than defense ever could. Chosen one. Your obedience did more than sustain you. It shifted atmosphere. Some of the chains you felt resisting you were never just yours. They belonged to a family system you were chosen to interrupt. That's why your walk required endurance. That's why your faith was tested quietly. Every time you chose faith over fear, humility over bitterness, obedience over escape, something unseen moved. Gates don't swing open all at once. They move inch by inch until suddenly they're wide enough for others to walk through. You may not realize it yet, but when your breakthrough becomes visible, it won't just change how your family sees you. It will change what they believe is possible. Shock will turn into questions. Questions will turn into curiosity. Curiosity will soften hearts that arguments never could. That's how God works, through testimony, not confrontation. So stay steady here, chosen one. Don't rush the unveiling. Don't rehearse explanations. Let God carry the weight of the reveal. What is coming will speak for itself. And when it does, you will understand why the silence, the waiting, and the refinement were necessary. This is not the end of the hidden story. This is the moment it begins to surface. Chosen one. I want you to stay with me here, because what I'm about to say will bring clarity to something you felt but couldn't fully explain. The reason your rise will shock your family is not just because of where you are going, but because of how quietly God has been bringing you there. Most people expect elevation to announce itself early. They think progress should be obvious, loud, and constantly validated. But God often works in reverse. He lets the roots grow deep before the tree ever breaks the surface. You may have noticed this pattern in your life. Long seasons where nothing seemed to change outwardly, yet inwardly you were being stretched, matured, stripped, and rebuilt. You were learning discernment instead of reaction. You were learning patience instead of panic. You were learning how to hear God clearly without needing constant confirmation from people. That kind of formation doesn't look impressive from the outside, but it is essential for what comes next. Chosen one. This is where many misunderstand God's timing. They see delay and assume disfavor. They see silence and assume abandonment. But silence is often the sound of preparation. I've lived through seasons where God felt quiet, not because he was absent, but because he was teaching me to trust his presence without noise. And I can tell you from experience, the people who survive those seasons come out different, calmer, clearer, stronger, less needy of approval, more anchored in truth. Your family may not have understood that version of growth. They saw you waiting while others advanced. They saw you holding back while others took shortcuts. They saw you choosing integrity when compromise would have produced faster results. To them, it may have looked like hesitation. To heaven, it was alignment. God was not just preparing you for blessing, he was preparing blessing to survive in your hands. Chosen one, there is a weight to sudden increase that few people talk about. When doors open quickly and favor accelerates, it exposes what was never healed, never surrendered, never refined. That is why your preparation took time. God was not interested in giving you something that would later destroy you. He was shaping your character to match the level He's about to trust you with. This is why comparison never worked in your favor. Every time you compared your timeline to someone else's, something felt off. That's because you were never meant to follow their sequence. Your assignment required a different order. What looks like delay in one life is protection in another. What looks like obscurity is sometimes insulation. Chosen one, let me say something that may challenge you but will also free you. Some of the people who doubted you were not malicious. They were limited by what they could see. They measured progress by visible milestones, not spiritual maturity. They interpreted God's patience as absence. But when your breakthrough manifests, it will not just shock them, it will correct their understanding of God's ways. And this matters because your elevation is meant to teach, not embarrass. It is meant to draw hearts, not create distance. God is not raising you to prove a point. He is raising you to create a pathway. When your family sees doors open that never opened for anyone before, it will spark questions they've never asked. And questions are holy ground. That's where transformation begins. Chosen one, I want you to recognize something else. The reason this rise feels intimidating is because you are aware of its impact. You are not just stepping into blessing, you are stepping into visibility, and visibility reveals as much as it rewards. This is why humility has been so important in your process. God has been teaching you how to stay grounded when things move quickly, how to listen when praise gets loud, how to stay submitted when influence increases. I remember the first time God shifted something in my life suddenly. The speed was disorienting. What I thought would take years happened in months. What I thought was impossible became normal, and the temptation wasn't pride, it was fear, fear of losing it, fear of mismanaging it, fear of being misunderstood. That's why God trains His chosen ones to rely on Him before He releases what they've prayed for. Chosen one, this is where trust becomes practical. You don't need to announce what's coming. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to defend your past or explain your future. Let God do the revealing. When He opens doors, no explanation is required. When He elevates, no justification is needed. Your role now is simple but sacred. Stay surrendered. Stay teachable. Stay thankful. The same God who carried you through obscurity will sustain you in visibility. The same grace that strengthened you in waiting will steady you in acceleration. And hear this clearly before we move forward. What is coming will not only change how your family sees you, it will change how they see God. That is why this matters. That is why the process was intense. That is why the rise will be undeniable. You are not late. You are aligned. You are not overlooked. You were protected. And now, chosen one, the season is shifting. The foundation is set. The ground is ready. What comes next will move faster than what came before. Stay with me, because in the next part, I'm going to show you how to recognize the exact signs that confirm this shift has already begun. Chosen one. Now I want to help you recognize the shift while it is happening, not after it has already passed. Most people only identify divine movement in hindsight. They look back and say, "That was God." But there is a level of spiritual maturity where you learn to discern the change in real time. And right now, the reason your spirit feels alert, unsettled, and expectant all at once is because heaven is already repositioning you. One of the first signs of this shift is internal clarity. Not noise, not excitement, clarity. You may have noticed that certain decisions are suddenly easier to make. Things you used to debate endlessly now feel settled. Relationships that once confused you are no longer emotionally gripping. Your tolerance for disorder has dropped. That is not detachment, that is alignment. When God prepares to elevate someone, He simplifies their inner world so they are not pulled in 10 directions at once. Chosen one. I remember when this happened to me. There was no announcement, no dramatic moment, just a quiet certainty that certain doors were closing for good and others were about to open without struggle. The fear that once accompanied change began to loosen its grip. That is a sign. Fear loses authority when alignment increases. Another sign you are in this transition is resistance changing form. Earlier resistance tried to stop you. Now it tries to distract you. The enemy no longer wastes energy discouraging you from moving forward. Instead, he introduces unnecessary options, emotional noise and minor conflicts meant to drain focus. This is why discernment matters now more than ever. Not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every open door is yours to walk through. Chosen one. This is where many miss their moment. They confuse movement with progress. But heaven does not reward motion. It rewards obedience. You are not being asked to do more. You are being asked to move precisely. God is narrowing your focus so that when acceleration comes, you are not scattered. Another confirmation of the shift is how people respond to you. You may notice 2 opposite reactions happening at the same time. Some become unusually supportive, drawn to you without knowing why. Others grow distant, uncomfortable, or subtly competitive. This is not coincidence. Light clarifies. When your season changes, it exposes alignment and misalignment naturally. You do not have to confront it. You simply observe and adjust. Chosen one, do not take withdrawal personally. Some people can celebrate you only up to the level where your growth does not challenge their comfort. When God lifts you, it reveals where others are rooted. This is not judgment, it is information. Use it wisely. Another sign of elevation approaching is increased responsibility without increased recognition. God often entrusts more before He reveals more. You may find yourself carrying heavier assignments, solving more complex problems, or being leaned on for wisdom without public acknowledgement. This is training for stewardship. If you can manage weight in private, you can manage visibility in public. I know that can feel unfair. I have been there. Doing the work, carrying the burden, holding the vision, while others receive applause. But I learned something valuable in those seasons. Recognition is not the reward. Capacity is. God was expanding what I could carry so that when recognition came, it would not crush me. Chosen one, watch also how your prayer life shifts. You may notice that your prayers are becoming simpler but deeper. Less asking, more listening. Less urgency, more trust. That is a sign of maturity. When God knows He can trust you with silence, He is preparing to trust you with influence. Another sign is divine interruption. Plans shift unexpectedly. Schedules change. Conversations happen that you did not initiate, but that open new perspectives. These interruptions are not delays. They are redirections. Heaven often rearranges your path quietly before it accelerates you openly. Let me ground this with something practical. Think of an airport runway. Before a plane takes off, there is a period of stillness, alignment, and clearance. Nothing appears to be happening, but every system is being checked. Every signal is being confirmed. When clearance is given, the movement is sudden and irreversible. That is where you are now. Clearance is happening. Chosen one. This is also why you may feel a strange mix of peace and pressure. Peace because you know God is involved. Pressure because the responsibility is increasing. This is normal. It means you are stepping into something that matters. The pressure is not meant to break you. It is meant to focus you. And here is a truth you need to hold on to. The shock your family will feel is not because you changed overnight. It is because they did not see the preparation. You were becoming while they were observing from a distance. When fruit appears suddenly, it looks miraculous. But heaven knows how long the roots have been growing. Chosen one, do not shrink as things begin to move. Do not apologize for answered prayers. Do not downplay what God is doing to make others comfortable. Humility is not denial. It is gratitude without arrogance. You can honor God openly without explaining yourself endlessly. As this shift continues, stay grounded in what carried you through the hidden season. Obedience, integrity, prayer, gratitude. These are not beginner tools. They are sustaining tools. The same habits that kept you stable in waiting will keep you steady in acceleration. I want you to sit with this truth as we prepare to move forward. You are not imagining the change. You are not being impatient. You are discerning movement. And in the next part, I will show you how this elevation is not just for you, but how it will strategically impact your family, your legacy, and the generations connected to you. Chosen one. Now we need to talk about why this elevation does not stop with you. What God is doing in your life has always been larger than personal success, larger than comfort, and larger than recognition. You were not refined this deeply just to arrive somewhere impressive. You were refined because your rise carries generational weight. This is where many misunderstand divine elevation. They think blessing is the destination. In truth, blessing is the instrument. You may have sensed this without having language for it. A quiet awareness that your choices mattered beyond your own future. That when you said yes to God in moments, no one witnessed something shifted that you couldn't fully explain. That sense was accurate. Heaven does not invest this much attention into a life without intention for legacy. Chosen one families carry patterns. Some are obvious, others are subtle. Ways of thinking, responding to stress, handling money, viewing authority, trusting God, or avoiding risk. These patterns don't disappear because time passes. They shift only when someone is willing to interrupt them. You were positioned to be that interruption, not through rebellion, but through obedience, not through confrontation, but through consistency. This is why your growth required separation at times, not because God wanted distance between you and your family, but because transformation often needs space to form without interference. If you had tried to grow while constantly explaining yourself, defending your faith, or seeking approval, the process would have stalled. God protected the work by limiting access. I've seen this play out in real life. The person who breaks a cycle is rarely celebrated while they're doing it. They are questioned, misunderstood, sometimes quietly resented. Not because they are wrong, but because their obedience exposes what others avoided. When you choose a different path, it forces people to confront their own choices. That discomfort is often misdirected toward you. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Your family's shock will not come from jealousy alone. It will come from recognition. Recognition that something they once dismissed was actually obedience. Recognition that the God they underestimated is active. Recognition that transformation is possible even when history says otherwise. This is why God waited. If your elevation had come early, it would have been dismissed as luck. If it had come gradually, it could have been explained away. But what is coming will carry a speed and precision that removes alternative explanations. The timing itself will testify. And here is where your heart posture matters. When this happens, resist the urge to rehearse old wounds. Resist the temptation to internally say, "Now do you see that response closes doors God intends to open?" The power of this moment is not in proving yourself, it is in extending grace. Chosen one. Some of the very people who doubted you will come to you quietly, not to apologize at first, but to ask questions. Questions about faith, about courage, about endurance, about how you kept going when things looked stagnant. That is the assignment revealing itself. You will not need to preach. Your life will already be speaking. I want to ground this in something practical. Think about how people respond to someone who has walked through illness and emerged healed. They don't argue with the testimony. They ask, "How did you get through it?" Your journey carries that same weight. Your scars are not liabilities, they are credentials. This is why God allowed you to feel the full weight of the process instead of rescuing you early. He was building empathy, not just authority. Influence without empathy creates distance. Influence with empathy creates trust. You are being trusted with influence. Chosen. One another reason your rise impacts your family is because it redefines what is possible for those who come after you. Younger relatives, children watching quietly, people who never spoke but observed closely. When one person steps into alignment, it alters the ceiling for everyone connected to them. You may never fully know who is watching your life right now, who is quietly noting how you handle pressure, how you speak about God, how you respond to disappointment. But heaven knows. And heaven accounts for that when releasing elevation. This is also why humility must remain central. Not false humility that shrinks or denies growth, but grounded humility that remembers where help came from. When you stay humble, your elevation becomes safe for others to approach. When you stay grateful, your testimony remains accessible. Chosen one. There is another layer to this that is important. As your life changes, some family dynamics will shift, roles will adjust, expectations will change. That can feel uncomfortable. Growth often disrupts familiarity. But disruption is not destruction, it is reordering. You are not responsible for managing everyone's comfort during your elevation. You are responsible for remaining obedient, kind, and anchored. Let God handle the relational recalibration. He is far more skilled at it than you are. As we move forward, I want you to release the pressure to perform your breakthrough perfectly. There is no script you must follow. Just stay close to God. Let Him guide your words, your responses, and your boundaries. The same voice that guided you in obscurity will guide you in visibility. Hold on to this truth, chosen one. Your rise is not an accident, it is an answer. An answer to prayers you prayed, prayers others prayed for you, and prayers some didn't even know how to pray yet. And in the next part, I'm going to help you prepare your heart and mind for the speed of what's coming, so that when acceleration begins, you remain steady, wise, and deeply aligned. Chosen one. Now we must talk about speed, because what God is preparing to release into your life will not move at the pace you are used to. One of the greatest misconceptions about divine elevation is that it unfolds gradually once it begins. Sometimes it does. But there are seasons when God accelerates in a way that feels almost overwhelming if you are not prepared internally. This is why wisdom matters now more than excitement. Acceleration without discernment can become confusion. Increase without grounding can become instability. I want you to understand this from lived experience, not theory. When God shifts a season suddenly, your external reality can change faster than your emotional framework catches up. Opportunities arrive back to back. Doors open before you've finished processing the last one. People begin to expect things from you that they never did before. And if you're not rooted, you can feel like you're running instead of being led. Chosen one. The reason your preparation season was long is because speed requires strength. God was not just building your faith, He was building your capacity to handle visibility without losing intimacy, capacity to steward resources without becoming controlled by them, capacity to remain obedient when your influence grows. This is where many people stumble. They pray for open doors, but do not prepare for open rooms. Rooms where decisions carry weight. Rooms where words shape outcomes. Rooms where compromise becomes tempting because the stakes are higher. God does not rush people into those spaces without first anchoring them deeply. You may have already noticed subtle signs of this preparation. You're more aware of your motives. You pause before reacting. You feel a stronger conviction to move slowly, even when excitement is high. That is not fear. That is wisdom rising. Scripture teaches that wisdom guards the soul, and right now your soul is being guarded for something valuable. Chosen one here is a truth you need to receive calmly. You are not behind. You are not unprepared. And you are not about to lose control. God is not releasing acceleration to test you. He is releasing it because you have been tested. What's coming is not meant to destabilize you. It is meant to confirm what was built in secret. But preparation doesn't end when the door opens. It shifts form. Instead of endurance, it becomes stewardship. Instead of waiting, it becomes discernment. Instead of praying for direction, it becomes listening for precision. This is why clarity is more important than ambition right now. You don't need to chase every opportunity that presents itself. Some doors will open simply to test your discernment. Others will open to stretch you beyond your assignment. The blessing is not in how much you accept, but in how accurately you respond. Chosen one. I want you to hear this gently but firmly. Saying no in a season of favor is just as spiritual as saying yes in a season of lack. You are not here to prove your worth by overextending yourself. You are here to move in alignment. Alignment protects longevity. Let me give you a grounded example. Imagine being handed a powerful tool without training. The tool itself is not dangerous. The misuse is. God does not give influence without instruction. That instruction is what you've been receiving quietly all along. Learning to wait, learning to listen, learning to obey even when it doesn't make sense. Those lessons now become safeguards. Chosen. One another area where speed can challenge you is relationships. As your life shifts, people will respond differently. Some will re-enter suddenly. Others will try to attach themselves quickly. Not everyone who shows up is meant to stay. Discernment does not mean suspicion, but it does mean awareness. You do not owe access to everyone who shows interest in your season. This does not make you unkind. It makes you wise. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. Gates allow you to decide what enters and what exits. And in a season of acceleration, gates must be watched carefully. You may also notice an increase in spiritual sensitivity. You pick up on atmospheres more quickly. You feel drained faster in certain environments. You become aware of conversations that pull you out of peace. This is not weakness. It is refinement. Your spirit is being tuned to protect what God is building through you. Chosen one, stay close to the practices that grounded you when nothing was happening. Prayer, stillness, gratitude, obedience. These are not beginner disciplines, they are maintenance disciplines. The higher you go, the more essential they become. And let me say this clearly, if at any point you feel overwhelmed, that is not failure, it is information. Slow down, recenter. Ask God for wisdom, not relief. He promises to give wisdom generously when asked. Wisdom will tell you when to pause, when to move, and when to wait, even in a season of movement. The shock your family will feel will not come from chaos in your life. It will come from how steady you remain while things move quickly. That steadiness will speak louder than success itself. It will show them that this rise is not self-made. It is sustained. Chosen one, do not fear the speed. Respect it. Do not idolize the blessing. Steward it. And do not forget the God who carried you through silence now walks with you into visibility. Hold this truth as we move forward. Acceleration is not meant to impress you. It is meant to position you. And in the next part, I will help you recognize how to remain spiritually grounded and emotionally whole while everything around you begins to change. Chosen one. Now we must talk about grounding, because elevation without inner stability will always feel fragile. What God is bringing into your life is not meant to be held with anxiety or managed through constant effort. It is meant to be carried with peace. And peace is not something you find after everything settles. Peace is something you establish before the increase fully manifests. One of the clearest signs that God has matured you is this: you no longer need chaos to feel alive. Earlier seasons trained you to survive pressure, tension, and uncertainty. You learned how to function in adversity. But now God is teaching you how to function in stability. That transition can feel unfamiliar. Some people unconsciously sabotage peace because they associate intensity with purpose. But peace is not the absence of purpose. It is the presence of alignment. Chosen one grounding begins with identity. You must stay anchored in who you are before the blessing, not who you become because of it. Titles may change, access may expand, influence may grow, but your identity does not shift with circumstances. You are still the same person God formed in quiet places. Remembering that keeps you from performing instead of living. I want to speak honestly here, because this is where many stumble silently. When things begin to work, there is a subtle pressure to maintain momentum, to keep producing, to keep proving, to keep meeting expectations that were never assigned by God. This pressure does not always come from people. Often it comes from within. A fear of losing what you waited so long to receive. Chosen one, hear this clearly. What God gives in obedience does not need to be protected by fear. Fear is not a safeguard, it is a drain. Trust is the safeguard. Trust allows you to rest without becoming careless. Trust allows you to move forward without rushing. Trust keeps you responsive instead of reactive. This is why rest is not optional in your next season. It is strategic. God rested after creation not because he was tired, but because he was establishing rhythm. Rhythm sustains what intensity cannot. You were never designed to run constantly at full capacity. You were designed to move in cycles of engagement and renewal. Pay attention to what restores you now. Silence. Time with God, simplicity, honest reflection. These are not luxuries, they are anchors. The more visible your life becomes, the more essential these quiet spaces are. Visibility without solitude leads to burnout. Influence without reflection leads to distortion. Chosen one. Emotional grounding also means allowing yourself to feel without being ruled by feelings. You may experience moments of joy, gratitude, disbelief, even grief for seasons that are ending. All of that is normal. Transition carries emotion. Do not suppress it, but do not let it steer you either. Feelings are indicators, not directors. You are allowed to celebrate without guilt. You are allowed to mourn what you outgrew. You are allowed to feel both excitement and responsibility at the same time. Maturity is not emotional numbness, it is emotional clarity. Another grounding practice you must maintain is truth-telling with God. Do not start filtering your prayers because things are going well. Do not pretend strength when you feel stretched. God is not impressed by polished language. He responds to honesty. The same God who met you in your doubts will sustain you in your growth. Chosen one, let's also talk about humility in a practical way. Humility is not minimizing what God is doing. It is acknowledging the source without self-focus. You do not need to downplay your breakthrough to appear spiritual. Gratitude honors God more than false modesty. Simply say, God did this, and let that be enough. Be mindful of who you allow to speak into your life during this season. Familiar voices may still be trusted, but not every familiar voice understands where you are going. Seek counsel from those who value obedience over appearance, character over speed, and faithfulness over fame. Not everyone who celebrates you can guide you. Chosen one. One of the greatest grounding tools you have is service. Stay connected to purpose beyond yourself. Use what God gives you to bless, not to isolate. Service keeps the heart soft. It reminds you why the blessing matters. It protects you from becoming self-centered without requiring self-denial. And here is something important. You do not need to rush into teaching or leading others just because your life changes. Let God set the pace of your influence. Sometimes the most powerful ministry is lived quietly before it is spoken publicly. Let fruit mature before you harvest it. You may notice that as you remain grounded, things around you stabilize. Opportunities become clearer. Decisions feel less pressured. You recognize when to act and when to wait. That is wisdom at work. That is God trusting you with discernment. Chosen one grounding is not about slowing down what God is doing. It is about making room for it to last. A tree that grows too fast without deep roots cannot withstand storms. But one that grows steadily can hold fruit season after season. As you hold all of this, remember this truth. You are not responsible for controlling the outcome. You are responsible for staying aligned. God handles outcomes. You handle obedience. Stay close. Stay honest. Stay grounded. Because what God is building through you is not temporary. It is meant to endure. In the next and final part, I will guide you into a posture of readiness and release, so that you step fully into what God is doing without hesitation, fear, or resistance, and allow this season to unfold exactly as heaven intended. Chosen one, this is the moment where readiness becomes release. Not striving, not forcing, release. Everything you have walked through has brought you here to a posture where you no longer need to chase what God has already decided. What is unfolding now does not require your anxiety, your proving, or your constant vigilance. It requires your agreement, your trust, your willingness to step forward without dragging fear with you. Readiness is not about having every detail mapped out. It is about being internally aligned so that when God moves, you move with Him instead of ahead of Him or behind Him. You are ready not because you feel fearless, but because you are anchored. Fear may still whisper, but it no longer leads. Doubt may still pass through your thoughts, but it no longer sets direction. Chosen one release begins when you stop rehearsing what could go wrong and start honoring what God has already done. Too many people step into new seasons carrying old questions that no longer apply. Questions like, what if this doesn't last? Or what if I mess this up? Those questions belong to survival seasons. You are stepping into stewardship. The question now is not, can I hold this? But will I stay aligned while holding it? This is where surrender deepens. Not the surrender of desperation, but the surrender of confidence in God's faithfulness. You are no longer asking Him to prove Himself. You are choosing to walk with Him as He reveals what He has already prepared. Chosen one. I want you to understand something important. Letting go does not mean disengaging. It means releasing control while remaining obedient. It means trusting God's timing even when momentum builds. It means allowing Him to set the pace instead of reacting to pressure from people's expectations or internal urgency. There will be moments in this next season where you are tempted to rush decisions because opportunity feels time-sensitive. Pause. God does not create urgency that undermines peace. When something is truly aligned, it will still be available after prayer, after counsel, after clarity. What is for you does not require panic. Release also means forgiving the past fully, not just forgiving people, but forgiving seasons, forgiving delays, forgiving yourself for moments where you doubted, hesitated, or felt tired. Carrying shame into a new season contaminates joy. You did the best you could with what you knew then. Honor that version of yourself. It carried you here. Chosen one. There is also a release of identity happening. You are stepping out of labels that no longer fit. The one who was overlooked. The one who was underestimated, the one who always had to explain. Those identities served a season, but they are not needed where you are going. Carrying them forward will limit how freely you move. You do not need to announce who you are becoming. Let consistency reveal it. Let fruit confirm it. Let God establish it. As this season unfolds, you may notice moments where you are tempted to look back, to check if others notice, to measure progress against past expectations. That backward glance can quietly slow you down. Lot's wife did not turn to salt because she looked back casually. She looked back longing for what she had already been rescued from. Do not romanticize what God delivered you out of. Chosen one, your future requires forward focus, not obsession, but orientation. Keep your eyes on what God is saying now, not what He said then. He speaks in seasons, and this season is marked by movement. This does not mean everything will be easy. Ease is not the promise. Alignment is. There will still be challenges, adjustments, and moments of stretching, but the difference now is that resistance will not define you. You are no longer fighting to be seen. You are learning how to be faithful with visibility. One of the most powerful ways to stay released is gratitude in real time. Not just thanking God afterward, but thanking Him as things unfold. Gratitude keeps your heart soft. It keeps entitlement from forming. It keeps wonder alive. When you thank God early, you remain teachable. Chosen one, let God surprise you. Stop trying to predict the shape of your breakthrough. Some of what is coming will look different than you imagined, but better than you expected. God often fulfills promises in forms we could not have planned because He is not limited by our understanding. Your family's shock will come not just from what happens, but from who you are while it happens. Your calm, your clarity, your humility, your peace. Those will speak louder than results. They will recognize that something deeper than success is operating in your life. And when they ask, when they watch, when they wonder, you will not need a rehearsed speech. You will simply live, and that will be enough. Chosen ones, step into this season without gripping it too tightly. Hold it with open hands. Trust that the same God who carried you through waiting will guide you through fulfillment. You are not walking alone. You never were. The rise is not coming. It is already in motion. Your role now is to walk forward with faith, humility, and courage, allowing heaven to complete what it has already begun. Stay present. Stay aligned. Stay released. Chosen one, receive this moment with reverence. What you have heard is not just encouragement, it is confirmation. Heaven has already set things in motion, and you are standing in your Kairos moment, the exact time appointed for your rise. Nothing is late. Nothing is missing. What God prepared in secrecy is now stepping into visibility, and the transfer you've been sensing has already begun. Anointed One, remain faithful in the posture you are in right now. Stay aligned, stay humble, stay grateful. The same God who sustained you in waiting will establish you in elevation. You will not have to force what is divinely released. What is coming will unfold with precision, clarity, and authority, and it will glorify God far beyond what words can explain. I declare peace over your spirit, courage over your steps, and wisdom over every decision ahead. I declare that doors open at the right time, connections align without strain, and favor rests upon you in ways that speak louder than explanation. What shocks your family will awaken faith. What elevates you will draw others closer to God. Chosen One, walk forward with confidence and gratitude. Carry this word with you. And if your spirit bears witness, let your agreement be known. Share this message, speak life in the comments, and stay connected with those walking this divine path alongside you. You were never meant to carry this alone.